two, one, boost ignition, and liftoff, and all systems are go.
Welcome to the Lesbo and The Bean universe. Lesbo and The Bean. LaTB, LaTB, where mixed martial arts and the UFC get silly. Big silly. Buckle up and move your tray tables to their upright position. And please, somebody shut that baby up. It's time for Lesbo and The Bean.
Welcome back. We're hitting it hard here. Is it episode 120 or 121? It doesn't even matter.
121.
Because we got more fights coming up this weekend. It is going to be one of those dreaded Sunday Fun Day cards. We are going to have a couple double debuts and dirty-ass splits coming along the way. So, UFC Germany, is it Hamburg, Germany?
Is it Hamburg, Germany? I don't.
So, the exact times as well, I believe it is.
I haven't even looked down at the date.
We're starting off with Damon Stasiak coming in against Ping, debuting Liu? I don't know how to pronounce an I.
Liu?
In Chinese. But the debuting 13-4 fighter is coming out of the Asian circuit, Endo Gaudi team. He has 13 fights, 4 hard losses, and he tends to get it done in their TKOs, tends to be a striker. I don't know what the specific art style of striking, but it's more karate-esque, Chinese, karate or whatever they got over there. Stasiak, we know what we're getting with. He's 10-5. Been in the UFC for a little while now, losing to Brian Kelleher as of late, also losing to Pedro Munoz, but he's gotten a couple wins in there, one against Davey Grant, another one, Felipe Page. Stasiak's gas tank can be worn down with body shots. His head movement as well isn't the best, but if he gets it to the ground, Stasiak really shines on the ground. Rolls really well with people's backs, gets a lot of ground control. It's just that gas tank at times. His striking is coming along. He's not an elite striker by any means. He doesn't have much power in his striking as well, and really that limited head movement is the scariest thing against Louis. Does he have a nickname? No. Liu?
I think it's just Liu.
Liu is gonna try to keep it standing.
We'll be wrong, and then someone
we'll
will
figure it out
about it. Or if he kills it, we'll remember his name forever.
So the long veteran Stasiak here, I do think can get it to the ground. The takedown defense we've seen from Liu wasn't the best against limited competition, where we have Stasiak losing to top contenders in Pedro and Kelleher. I definitely think that once it gets to the ground, it's going to be a very one-sided fight, if not a finish for Stasiak. I am going to lean Stasiak this way, might put him on a couple DraftKings. This is the first fight of the night, might end up just staying away from it. That tends to be how we like to do it here. What do you think goes down in this fight?
I have Stasiak decision. When I look through all the guys that Liu's beaten, I have the same record as some of them, where they've fought one fight and they've won none. So, I'm going to go with Stasiak's experience. He's fought a lot of hard guys in there, and the guys he's losing to aren't schlubs. And then I have no idea what the DraftKings will be, but I'm guessing if it's as heavy favorited as everybody looks like on Tapology.
8,200 Damon Stasiak against 8,000
They see
Liu.
what I see.
Barely. That's not far. I would think Stasiak would be a more decided favorite there. I guess people are really liking that striking. We're going to see if it transfers over into the UFC. Moving on to the 205ers, though, we have Jeremy Kimball against debuting Draco Stosic. Stosic is coming in with a 12-1 record fighting out of Serbia. He's had a few decisions, some knockouts in there against fighters with pretty good records as well. We know those Eastern European guys tend to come in and not always do the worst. At 26 years old, Draco is definitely heavily built at 205-pound division. Jeremy Kimball, though, is one of those guys that is a karate guy, has really fun in and out movement, but has that pudge. Every time we see it, we're like, man, that guy looks like a 185er that doesn't work hard. And Kimball has said that he's the 95er potentially, but it's one of those reasons why we need that middle division. because 85 is just enough and it's such a big gap. Kimball, though, the rough thing is that he gives away a lot of power when he moves up to 205, and we've seen him be hurt in the few times he's lost in the UFC. It's because he usually gets hurt and then gives up a submission, which he tends to be a submission guy. And the knockouts do come because it doesn't matter. You're just giving up that amount of natural size of guys who cut down from 220 when you're a buck 95 or moving up, essentially. In this position, I like to put a lot of money on Kimball most of the time, and it's come up short, and I'm going to go with the Russian getting in there, if not winning the wrestling position, landing an overhand right, and just being able to wear it a bit more. Kimball has fun striking movement in there, but hasn't really hurt anyone, especially in these heavier divisions. His cardio as well he's a little susceptible to body shots. I'm going to go with the debuter here. Going to be tentative on this fight as well, but I got Draco to win via second round knockout. How do you feel this one goes down?
Really, this is a shot in the dark that I'm going to go with the Serbian and also pick Stosic KO round 2 over Jeremy Kimball. Maybe round 1. I'm not going to put it too many places at all, and this is really that I don't have a lot of love for Kimball going into this fight, more than I'm showing any kind of favoritism for the newbie. So I will not have it on too many cards.
So 9,300 for the debuting Draco against Kimball's 6'9". Do you see a decision happening here or a finish potentially?
Finish.
I see a finish as well. I think a lot of people are seeing that, and I'm gonna be tentative on Draco because Kimball has real skills in there. Again, I think he's one of the few cases where not cutting weight might be impeding his performances a little bit. On to the bantamweights, 135-pound division highlighted again with Manny Bermudez against Davy Grant. Davy Grant's taken a little bit of a hiatus, being 8-3 over a year, 9 months ago, losing to Stasiak via armbar. Davy Grant tends to be a ground fighter, usually gets a lot of takedowns in his fights against Manny, the Triangle Bermudez. I gave him that nickname. The Bermudez Triangle. I believe we gave him that name here at LaTB a long time ago.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't take any credit for it. If it came out, it was all you, because that's clever.
I believe Lesbo specifically. I'm gonna give him the rub. This was an Orlando fight. We watched.
See, I was giving you full credit, and you were going to give it to me, and I don't remember it. Oh shit, I'm so far away from the mic. I was all relaxed. I don't remember doing any of that.
Do you remember Bermudez fighting in Orlando?
Yes.
We saw this young man, and he ended up winning that via submission. He also likes to go to the ground and really make his money there on the ground. Very long, good gas tank, tough. The reason Bermudez is tough is because you always see him get hit in there. His head movement is a bit lacking, though. Him being 24 years old, he's evolving much, much more than the 32-year-old Grant, who also has limited striking, limited power, and on the ground, where he usually beats guys, he started to get submitted, not even as of late, because he's been out due to injuries. Bermudez being the young up-and-comer, he definitely is 12-0, has a lot more momentum on his side, and a lot of people, I feel like, are seeing the same thing I am. Once it gets to the ground, striking, it's going to be fairly even. If not, Bermudez is going to be growing so much, I think he could beat Grant striking. And on the ground, Bermudez is also better. I got Bermudez submission round number 1, if not 2. If Stasiak, who's opening the night off, can beat you via armbar, Bermudez is better on the ground than Stasiak. And we've seen that a few times with his bell rung.
I don't have so much to add to it, because I think that's also a prop bet that you can make, because I also have Bermudez submission round 1.
Nice.
I have a lot of faith in this kid going forward. I think he's one to watch in the UFC, and I almost feel like this is a feeder fight.
I totally agree. This is a potential fight to help pad that record a bit more. Bermudez versus Grant on DraftKings. Bermudez 9,200 against Davy Grant 7,000. Lopsided fights we have all over the odds as well. Quickly, we do have the odds out actually as well. Bermudez minus 245 against plus 205 Davy Grant. Stasiak is an even minus 105 against minus 115 against Lou. And Kimball versus Draco minus 275 against Kimballs, plus 235. So heavy favorites. Gonna be hard. You're gonna have to put a couple parlays together if you are making some of those bets.
But if you pick the round and you pick
Just
how
a prop
it
bet on
happens,
its own?
yeah,
That's a
prop
good
it on
point.
its own.
You
And
will
usually
get
when
it.
we agree on the way that it finishes,
It's a good call.
there's a little bit
It's a
of
good
money
call.
to be made.
On to the big boys. 5 pounds. Actually, not the big boys. LaTB debuted at heavyweight, piecing apart Chase Sherman, coming in with a 9-0 record, coming off of a 3-fight winning streak. He has actually popped for, I believe, weed and steroids, coming in with some of the worst hair. He had a burnt waterfall on it at one point in time. And he liked my tweet, so I always gotta give him props. I like LaTB, fun guy. Some of the best boxing you see in MMA in general. Was a pro boxer, undefeated as a pro boxer, and really showed it in every one of his heavyweight fights. He's actually submitted a few guys now on the ground via rear naked choke, and those chokes and submissions come is because guys are like, I'm gonna go to the ground at any cost because I don't want to keep boxing with this guy. LaTB's jab as well, highlighted it here many times. One of the better jabs in there. He really throws it with knockout power. Really throws guys' heads back, and it sets up his entire game plan. Also, great lateral movement against Alec Rakic. Rakic being a 9-1, 26-year-old 205er, has only one loss. He's mainly gotten knockouts against opponents who are 5-1, 4-2, and 19-5 as of late, beating Francimar Barroso in the UFC 10 months ago. You know how we feel about Barroso out here. The Gross Barros, as we like to call him. And he eked out a decision, somewhat limited head movement. Gas tank was really bad. Used his wrestling, but I like LaTB's wrestling here. If you haven't heard what way I'm leaning, I got LaTB everywhere. Everywhere. I got a TKO round number 3. LaTB is that kill you by 1,000 cuts, but he's big enough to be able to also land that one hitter quitter when needed. Smart fighter in there. Loving LaTB everywhere here. How do you feel this one goes down?
I like LaTB. I'm not as high on him because usually when it gets to the decision, he can lose a decision by just slight mistakes, and at the end of each round, he can just toss rounds away. I'm picking LaTB. I'm hoping all of that's cleaned up. I like him better at 205. This other guy doesn't have the experience at all. And it might be the first time I've gone with LaTB.
So the really interesting thing here is that we were preaching on against Ivanov versus Dos Santos, where he's a 205er who just, and like Roy Nelson, who made a career at heavyweight because there wasn't enough people. Is LaTB in that boat? Does he give away his speed advantage when he goes to 205 because it dramatically increases?
It might be something like that.
And I'm heavy on LaTB. 8,300 on DraftKings against the 7-9 for Rakic. Interesting bout. I might hold off. I'll probably put LaTB on 60, if not 65% of my DraftKings cards.
I like him. I just don't think he's going to get a lot of points.
But
I do like him for the win. He doesn't have a lot of volume.
That's a good call. Minus 125 for LaTB against the plus 105. Rakic?
It should be a little better than that for LaTB. He should have higher odds.
I agree. I think he should be a little more sided favorite. Maybe a minus 185.
Yeah, something.
Something like that. Moving on to the 145-pound division, we have a double debut. Dreaded double debut. Triple D's. Right up in this bench. We got Nad Ninamani versus Khalid Taha. Or Ta, I believe I've heard it pronounced. Ninamari coming out of the Cage Warriors organization, beating Paddy Pimblett, 10-2 fighter, coming in against Taha's 12-1 record, only having one loss via submission 6 months ago, but has already redeemed himself rear naked choke submission 2 months ago. Coming out of Germany, he's going to be the local fighting the Englishman. Ninamari, I watched that Paddy Pimblett fight. It was a tough fight. A lot of people are calling for Paddy to be in here, but there's holes in both of these guys' games, and it is that they are both. Ninamani is very hittable. Gas Tank can suffer a little bit. He does eat a lot of shots, wears them well, and has good fight IQ. Can throw a good takedown in there when he needs to. Khalid Taha being 12-1. The opponents that he's been fighting are 10-2. What are some of these other guys? They're 8-5-2, 23-13. But they're regional guys out of Germany. Not a lot of movement out there. I don't recognize too many of the names. I like Nemani a little bit more than Taha just because the experience. Cage Warriors does have a bit higher caliber over in that European scene. And what I saw wrestling-wise, I do think that Nemani has a clear path on the ground to be able to hold position. Taha can get put on his back and just stuck there. Also, the Gas Tank can be lacking a little bit. I'm going to stay so far away from this fight because they are both debuting guys with such limited experience. I'm just going to sit back, relax, and watch this one. But I am going to go Nemani decision. Tentative. If anywhere, I'm going to say stay away. What do you got in this one?
I really don't know enough about either fighter is why I'm going to stay far away from this fight. I also have a Narimani decision, but I'm really just hanging out with the crowd.
9,100 for Ninamari against Taha's 7,100. Yeah, that line seems super steep. Super steep.
I don't know. Maybe the guy's
maybe they know something we don't know.
Yeah, maybe he's a slayer.
We will see. Welterweight division, we have Emil Weber Meek against debuting Bastoso Fibonacci. Actually, not debuting. He's just been out of the game for so long. He's been away for 2 years, 7 months, beating Hector Urbina in a decision. And also Jareth McClendon over 3 years ago. The 13-2 fighter, Fabinski, is 32 years old. He likes to keep it standing. Really sets a low pace in there. Doesn't really go in for the kill shot. Has serviceable wrestling, but 2 years, 7 months away from the sport is a huge time, especially in the days we're living in. And if we just don't know what's going on with him. If he looks like he did against the limited competition that we now have seen Urbina and McClendon, didn't make it far in the UFC at all. And he barely beat those guys with decisions. Meek coming in off of his third loss ever, 9-3, losing to Usman in a decision, which is a feat in itself. And I think actually the amount of growth that he's going to have in that loss, I believe Meek has been training stateside, coming out of Norway. He's been over here ever since that loss, and the growth just from what we have over 6 months ago. Meek is serviceable on the ground. Striking, he has a little bit more power, is getting better striking. I'm going to go with Meek TKO round number 2. It's just the time away for the 32-year-old Fabinski. I'm going to put Meek on some spots, not everywhere. How do you feel this one goes down?
I think Meek could finish the fight. I also have him to decision, but the best thing either guy has done is that Meek lost and did go to decision with Kamaru Usman, who we think will be wearing the strap one day. So I agree with you. I think he's probably grown a ton since that fight, and I like everything Emil Meek is doing right now. If this is an entertainment sport, and he is such a perfect character, and he plays it so well. I like this Viking. I like the look. I like how he fights. He's exciting in there. It wasn't very exciting that Kamaru Usman took him down the whole time, so it was like a real stifling of his style of fight. So it'll be fun to watch him go in there, and I don't think he's going to get taken down like that. Yep. Kamaru
Usman, yeah, it's just not there for Bianski.
So I will have Emil Meek on a bunch of cards, I think.
Meek 8,400 against 7,800 for Binsky.
I could see a late, mid finish.
I was thinking I was going to move to a submission round number 2. The more I was feeling it. On to.
I see a dirty elbow.
Changing the whole game plan of that fight for Fabinski. To the main preliminary fight, we have Nick Hein coming in against Damir Hadzovic. Hadzovic being 11-4 against the 14-3 Hein. Hein is one of these guys who tends to fight overseas. I believe he's fought in Germany for most of his fights, and the juice must be flowing, if you know what I'm talking about, in Germany, because he's a muscle shark. He reminds me of the muscle shark. I'm like, the body type, the style. He's just shredded from head to toe. Gets in there. The longtime judoka, 34 years old, likes to use his judo in there and actually really implements his striking fairly well. Has some okay leg kicks. Doesn't really go to him much. Really keeps it. Uses his judo in reverse to keep it striking on the ground. He uses it more as a stifling than trying to submit people. Coming off of a lost submission to Davy Ramos. Ramos is definitely very high caliber jiu-jitsu fighter who was able to exploit Hines' ground game a bit. Hadzovic, not going to be that guy. Tends to be a striker, heavy. He has holes in his game where Alan Patrick really ended up using his wrestling to take down Hadzovic the whole time, not let him up and strike, because Hadzovic's striking, what we saw in his debut against Marcin Held, is he can be losing a fight via takedown and always land that knee. He has great timing, tons of power in all of his limbs. He's shredded from head to toe. The 31-year-old I like a lot because I always like that puncher's chance, and he has very explosive, fast twitch muscle in there. And we've seen him losing a fight with Held. Held we haven't seen be UFC caliber, and the fact that you're losing a fight to Held means that there's a direct path. Alan Patrick showed it. Hein can do that. Hein can do all of that exact same stuff and make it a boring decision.
That is what I was thinking the whole thing about this fight. This might be the boring fight of the night, which is weird.
And that's because Hein makes it a boring fight more than anything. I think it's going to be a pitter-patter more than anything. I'm going to actually go with the underdog to end up winning here. I know I got a big underdog. I like Hadzovic. I like where he's going with this. I know what we get with Hein. He doesn't change his game plan. It's the same Hein, and I think Hadzovic can come in here, especially after that wrestling clinic. He's going to get his feet under him. Big underdog for me. Who do you got by the end of the night on this one?
I think Hein does the same game plan as everybody who seems to beat Hadzovic does, and just grinds the shit out of him. And it might be a really boring fight, a really boring decision. And that's all I have to say about that. I don't know if it'll be high scoring either any way you cut it, and I'm going to stay far away from it.
Hein, 8,500 on DraftKings against the 7,700 in Hadzovic. Hadzovic also the bigger underdog, plus 150 against the minus 170 Hein. So money, but it is a puncher's chance. I got to learn to stay away from some of those where I'm like, his only shots to win is by a punch.
But it's your it's your dog or pass play.
It is my dog or pass play as of now. Totally. On to the main card. You got to switch it over to FS1. We have David Zawad
and Julia Roberts' brother
against Danny the hot chocolate himself, Roberts. I think they might be cousins. No, I
think they're related. I think they're siblings. Julia Roberts is an older sibling. Little MMA trivia. Take that to your friends this week.
Look it up.
Take it to your friends this week. Pretty woman Danny Roberts is related to Julia Roberts.
David Zawad debuting in the UFC and the main card, starting off against Danny Roberts. Danny Roberts last coming in off of a win 15-3 against Oliver Enkamp. TKO, losing prior to that to Nordin Taleb. Also losing to Mike Perry in there. The Taleb fight always has to have you a little bit scared because Taleb started coming to his own a little bit more as of late. Enkamp, can't really tell. He was a semi-prospect, but Roberts has really shown that his striking is what makes him his money. Has power in that right hand, switches stance well. His gas tank has been an issue, gotten that under him. It's just that chin. Against a heavy puncher, he can get put on his butt even to this day, but he does not have to worry about that against the KSW debuter. He does have a few knockouts in there against 8-4 type of opponents, but last winning via rear naked choke 3 months ago, getting some decisions. The level of caliber again at KSW is high, but it's nowhere near Danny Roberts' long-time standing career in the UFC. The only way Sawad wins this is via decision. The head movement is a little limited. Gas tank can be worn on a bit. Roberts has already passed those tests. If he hasn't passed those tests, he showed that he can gain where he's deficient. I got Roberts everywhere here. Kind of think this is a setup fight for Roberts. He, like the Camp fight, it was kind of set up. I don't know if we can call him a prospect, but he can definitely win this fight. I got Roberts for the TKO round number 2. Think he softens him up, finishes it in the second round for the hot chocolate. Who do you have in here?
I really like Danny Roberts, but anytime a guy has power in his hands at all, he will go to sleep. He does not like to stand up and fight, and I think this is going to be a stand-up fight. I think he may get knocked out, and it seems to be every other fight for him that he gets knocked out. I have Zawada KO round 2.
Woo! Humongous underdog for Lesbo. Are you going to play Sawada on DraftKings for 6,800?
Yes.
Against 9,400 for Roberts. A lot of people see the finish coming in on Roberts. I'm on one of those bandwagons. So, going against the grain Lesbo. Big odds. Let's see what we got on those.
I might 50-50 but I just don't. No, I won't. I will have Zawada on a few cards and Roberts maybe on 1 or 2 because I just don't think he should be the most expensive fighter of the night.
Roberts is also going to be the biggest favorite of the night, minus 380 against plus 315, 4-1 essentially for Danny Roberts. That might be a little inflated. Definitely a little inflated. I like what you're saying there. Dogger pass as far as the Lesbo on that position. Then we get into the barn burner. 155 pounds. We got Mark Dikesi coming in against Nasrat Hapkaras. Nasrat, nipple game, super strong. You know me. I like to always highlight
You do.
the atrocious nipple game of Hapkaras. Baby gassed as well.
They're not the worst, though.
They're not the
even
worst.
close.
They're up there. I don't know why. They're up there. Dikesi coming in 12-2, only 2 losses in the UFC to the Hangman via 6 months ago via submission. Prior to that, also lost a close split decision, too close. And there's a path of victory in the wrestling, in the striking even against Dikesi. Dikesi is very powerful and tends to blitz people, but what we've seen in a few fighters is if you get out of that first round, the gas tank diminishes dramatically. The IQ diminishes a bit too there, and there is definitely grinding positions against this fighter. Hapkaras been at Black House for a little while. The 22-year-old has definitely lost his debut against Marcin held in a decision. 8-2, was supposed to be a knockout guy, wasn't able to get held out of there. And a lot of people aren't liking that decision to held. It is pretty held barely is making it in the UFC. They're both up and comers, both coming up. This is for Dikesi. This is loser leaves town. Well, maybe not for Hapkaras, but this is definitely Dikesi's got to come through on this one. He is the more dynamic striker than Hapkaras, but Hapkaras has power in his right hand and some good counter striking. Wrestling wise, neither of these guys are going to take it to the ground. Hapkaras will shoot more than Dikesi. Dikesi's going to want to keep it striking, and that is it. It has some good spinning kicks to the body as well. I just can't trust that gas tank at all. I'm actually going to stay away from this one, sit back and enjoy. I'm going to go with Hapkaras decision. I don't like that gas tank on Dikesi. I'm going to stay away from this one. Sit back and enjoy. Who do you have?
I like both fighters, and I think both fighters actually stay in the UFC regardless of what happens, just because they both are young and one's from Germany, one's from England, so those are like markets the UFC is, needs some guys in. I think Dikesi pulls it out. I think both guys fought regionally in the same scene for enough time for people to really know, and I'm trusting the odds here. I think he can sneak out the decision. I am giving Nasrat. I'm giving him credit because he looks like Gastelum, but other than that, he hasn't done anything really great in my opinion. So I'm gonna finally give the shine to Dikesi, and I never have before. It'll be the first time I've gone with the guy. Dikesi decision.
I may be backtracking on myself as well here. Hapcross against Machine Held was short notice, but the takedowns, if Held is able to take you down solidly, but that's not going to matter in this fight, and Daikesi is the better striker. Alright, I'm going to go decision Daikesi. I'm still going to be off of it. I'm still not going to play it heavily. 8,900 Daikesi against 7,300 for Hapcross. Nazrat. I'll put Daikesi on a few. Hap maybe on 2 or 3, but maybe just stay away from this one. On to another gross fight. We have heavyweights. Stefan Skyscraper Struve against Macklin Tubura. Both of these fighters coming in with a 2-fight losing streak. 16-4. Martin is 2 years older at 32 years old and lost to Derek Lewis. Prior to that, also lost to Fabricio Verdum in a decision. The decision of Verdum is probably his most telling fight. What I didn't like in that Derek Lewis fight was the gas tank for Tibura. Well, the gas tank is much the accumulation of shots. Tibura allows fighters to hit him because he has that Homer Simpson defense where he's like, hit me with everything you got, eventually you'll get tired, and I will keep striking and beat you by 1,000 cuts. Not when you're fighting heavy punchers like Derek Lewis. Struve, sometimes he has that power, sometimes he doesn't. Knocked out Miocic as well, guy who's notoriously a bit harder to knock out. And of late...
Not a good time to say that.
right. Against DC. But as of late, the 2-fight losing streak to Alexander Volkov, TKO 10 months ago, and then Andrei Arlovsky decision. Those two are fairly gross, especially that Arlovsky split. There's just so many issues with Stefan Struve. Mentally, he's fallen out because of panic attacks. He's already gotten medically unfit because he's got gigantism. Just a big guy. His size has really carried him forward for a long, long time. And on the ground, he can definitely eat Tybura apart. But if Verdum, who never really took it to the ground, didn't submit Tybura, it's going to be a bit harder for Struve. I don't know who the bigger punching bag is here, honestly. Like, when you got 2 punching bags in, who wins? Struve got good knees because he's so tall. He can really hurt people with an inside short knee. But he lives his head straight up as well. It's whoever lands first, or we get one of the most boring fights of the night. I'm going to end up going with Tybura by decision. Wow. And I'm going to stay away from this so much. This is a disgusting fight for me. Who do you have in this one?
The best thing that either guy's done to me of late is that Marcin Tybura went to decision with Verdum.
Yep.
And I think Marcin could find Struve's chin. At this point, it is painful for me to watch Stefan Struve fight.
Mm-hmm,
it is painful. It isn't even because I'm worried that he's going to get knocked out. It's like his body physically actually hurts me to watch him fight. It looks like it's painful for him to throw kicks. It just doesn't seem right in there for him to be doing it to himself. He's probably a pretty well-paid guy because of his size and because he's so grandfathered in that he's just going to collect checks as long as they need to. It's perfect to put on a filler of this card. I don't know what he's doing there anymore. I think Marcin's young enough. I think he can find that chin, knock him out. So I got Tybura, KO, round 2.
Tybura, 9,000 on DraftKings against Stefan Struve, 7,200. A lot of people seeing it go that way. Also decided favorite.
But I do think, like, you could have Struve as your underdog pick, because even if it goes to decision and he loses, they'll throw a similar amount of punches. I don't think either is a money play unless there's a knockout. So it's almost a dog or a pass. Even though I see a knockout coming, I'm only like 30 or 40% sure of it. You know? It's a weird one.
So, Tybura is minus 240, almost 3-1 odds. Close. A lot of people see it going that way, and I think it's Stefan Struve he's his own worst enemy than anything in there. Moving on to a really gross fight as well. We're going to be in the grossness. Vitor Miranda, 185 pounds against Abu, debuting Azir. Azir is coming out of the World Series of Fighting, 13-2. He has a few wins in there via decision, a couple knockouts. Miranda is 12-6, losing to Vittori in a decision, also losing to Chris Camozzi in a decision, beating a few guys that have already been out of the UFC. I believe up at 205 Miranda was for a long time. Miranda definitely the known striker in here. That's where he really likes to... you're not going to see a shot from here. If you do see a shot from Miranda, it's desperation. It's because he usually gets hurt. He bends at the waist and moves forward. Clinch game, not that great as well. Really likes to be more of a Muay Thai striker in there. And the thing that sucks with Miranda is that he has all the technical ability to be able to get anybody out of there. It's just that he has no chin at all. You cannot trust Miranda's chin. He gets hit with light shots and they affect him like Stefan Struve, where the light is shot and you're like, oh man, he's all wobbly. That looked like it was a jab.
He is 40.
Yeah, and it's not a good 40. He's been in professional combative sports for a very, very long time. A lot of people see the debuter coming in and actually getting a knockout or a decision. I'm going to give the younger man, 32-year-old Abu, the win here. Not a better striker, but he can take it to the ground if he needs to. If Chris Camozzi can beat you striking or on the ground, Abu can get it there. A little bit better of a wrestler, but going to be tentative as far as this one as well. Got Abu decision, if not TKO round number 1. And it's all that, it's Abu, or it's just like Struve, can't bet on Miranda anywhere. So I'm in the same position as I was the first one, or the other one prior to that. Who do you have in this fight?
I have Miranda decision, and I actually think he can finish it. I think Camozzi and Vittori are far better than Abu Azater, and the fact that he made it to decision with both those fighters, and I think they probably have heavier hands. Camozzi maybe not, but Vittori has okay heavy hands. I'm not that I'm not worried about his chin. I just think he has enough skill set, and he's one of these older guys. And another thing, I'm just throwing it out there. Brazilian fighter, fighting over in Germany.
Good call.
Probably juice to the tits. I'm going to go with Miranda decision over Abu.
Fun one. You have a fairly good sized underdog there as well. 8,800 for Abu against Miranda, 7,400. Betting lines as well. It is Abu minus 190 against the plus 160. You got a couple guys to put in on a parlay there. Triple them up underdogs, makes them cash if
Good,
they hit.
I need to. I need to save up for that Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier 2 card.
Ooh, that does seem like a fun one.
What is
Definitely.
that, 228? No, 227? I don't know. We are not there. Let's just stay on this fun card.
On to the co-main
I ain't
event.
a hater.
The co-main event in Hamburg is Glover Teixeira versus Corey Anderson. Sketchy ass chins on highlight this mid-morning card on a Sunday. You're gonna see some TBI
You
for
gonna
sure.
see knockouts on a Sunday.
Definitely. Glover Teixeira being a title contender, losing to the likes of John Jones and Gustafsson, also Anthony Johnson in there, but has beat everyone else he should be able to beat, even people he shouldn't. Came in as an underdog against Misha Shurkanov, who has no chin, knocked him out. Glover Teixeira also pieced up Cannonier, who's finally a prospect in there as well. Teixeira's boxing is really good, black belt jiu-jitsu on the ground. Teixeira doesn't go to the ground much because he has so much confidence in his striking. A good counter striker with tons of power. Little bit older in his career at 38 years old as well. People have said that he's chinny.
Wow, this is the old man run.
Right? People have said he's a bit chinny, but he was a bit chinny against Anthony Rumble Johnson. yeah, like a lot of people are chinny against Anthony. Against Gustafsson and Cannonier.
Anthony Johnson has a weird face to me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He looks like a alien.
He looks like he has collagen in his face. Like he almost could, like he is going to be on RuPaul's Drag Race.
I bet there's many surgeries that have gone on in that fight. The other side of the fight, though, we have Corey Anderson being 10-4, coming off of a win against Pat Cummings, where both of those sketchy ass chins were on profile. Corey Anderson is he 24/7? Oh, he's overtime now. He used to be 23 Easton or 24/7 Easton or something crazy like that. Either way, overtime now. Really showed his gas tank in wrestling. I thought Cummings was going to win the wrestling advantage there, and Corey Anderson came in and showed a great gas tank, good shots, good takedowns, good pressure up against the fence, and just really mauled a failing Pat Cummings. Glover Teixeira, great counter wrestling. The real people that have only been able to out-wrestle him has been John Jones. That's really it. So that's pretty high credentials in my eyes. Gas tank has also shown well. We have started to see Teixeira fade a little bit later in the rounds now, but it's that Easton chin, Corey Anderson's overtime's chin. Can't trust that to save your life anywhere. He stiffens up night quickly against one of your favorite fighters, Jimmy Manuwa, who you like to think is a little
overrated. He did find that shot though.
Quickly.
That's Jimmy Manuwa's highlight of his whole career.
I would agree with that. But we also know Pat Cummings, the last fight for Eastman, coming off a 2-fight losing streak, also fairly pillow-fisted. So Glover Teixeira's got power for days compared to Cummings. I got Teixeira TKO round number 1. I'm going to have him in a lot of spots. Who do you have in this fight?
I'm going the other way. I'm going with another underdog. I have Corey Anderson, and I think he's going to knock out Glover Teixeira. If Alexander Gustafsson can knock you out, so can Corey Anderson. I'm not really impressed with... I did like Misha Serkinov, and I think any guy at this weight can find the other guy's chin. That is not to be said. And 6 months ago, Glover looked amazing. I do not think lightning strikes twice for him. I thought he was donezo. I didn't think he was going to be fighting anymore. He came out and won that fight. I was super surprised. But then he beat James Cannonier by a decision. That's equally as impressive as beating Pat Cummings by a decision. And then he lost to Anthony Johnson. I thought that was a faded Anthony Johnson that I was over. I thought Anthony Johnson was overrated at that point of Anthony Johnson. I was over that Anthony Johnson. And then he beat Rashad Evans. I'll let the silence sit there. So I think that everybody's really overlooking Corey Anderson here. I think I see that Teixeira is a super favorited. I don't think it should be that favorited. I think it should be closer than that. I got Corey Anderson KO round 2.
Wow. Glover Teixeira 8,600 against 7,600 for Anderson. Fun one. It's money line wise, you got to be all over Anderson there, but if you have Anderson winning, the actual money line is minus 165, Glover Teixeira plus 145 for Corey Anderson.
You say Teixeira has more power than Corey?
Yes.
I have it the other way.
Woo!
You hear that, UFC? Can you get into that punching machine and let's see what the haps are on this?
Going to the main event. This is a theme here. We profiled it for like 4 fights in a row. Really old guy against a guy who's not so old, but definitely a really old, long-time fighter. We got legend Mauricio Shogun Hua coming in against Anthony Lion Smith. Smith, 29-13, a longtime veteran at 23 years old against one of the most veteran of all time, 36-year-old, 25-10, Shogun Hua coming off of a 3-fight winning streak. Those last 3 fights being the Jean Vellante, no chin, Rodrigo Nogueira, no chin, Corey Anderson, split decision in his last 3, but losing to the likes of Dan Henderson as well, and also OSP because of that. Shogun might be a little chinny. Those last 3 fighters he fought were, I feel like, really well tailor-made for Shogun to get the win. They were winnable fights, where with Anthony Smith in his second run in the UFC here, really seen his...
If Hua has a good showing here, he's fighting for the title.
Immediately. I think that either one of these guys at 85 is fighting for the title. Whoever wins off of this. Because Shogun on a 3-fight winning streak in a 185 division, who it's been a little lacking in the top division. Are they at 205? My bad, 205. It is lacking with all of them moving to heavyweight and talking about heavyweight instead of...
I don't think so. I think whoever wins this fight fights...
DZ?
Olenek.
Olenek's got to fight.
Does he? Yeah, DC's not fighting anyone else at 205,
at 205
ever again.
Exactly. So, Anthony Smith last beating Rashad Evans That's a little iffy. Everyone could see that coming. Rashad Evans, not what he once was. But losing to Thiago Santos 5 months prior to that in a brawl, beating Hector Lombard as well. And I would say that Hector Lombard is his coming out fight, even though Hector is also a shell of himself. Anthony Smith showed good takedown defense, okay head movement. He does get hit a bit more than I like, relies on that chin, and powers
Hector Lombard, they were fighting at 205. I thought it was at 185. I thought you were...
They could have been at 185 for Hector, or it could have been at 205.
It could have been. I don't know enough about these guys.
But either way, yeah, the last one was at 205 for Rashad Evans. Lion Smith is a heavy favorite for a reason, and it is because striking-wise, Anthony Smith had tons more power, can eat a few shots before he gets out of there. Thiago Santos really had to lay it on him with heavy-duty shots. Shogun has a lot of power, but not Santos type of power. So I see Anthony Smith eating a few shots, maybe getting into round 2, but I really like the TKO round 1 potentially. Again, this is more of a fade on Hua than anything. Like we were saying with Struve and multiple other fighters, every time I see Shogun in there, I'm like, oh, please don't hit him in the face anymore. He's had enough. Leave Shogun alone. So, I got Anthony Smith TKO round number 1. I'm going to probably put it everywhere, but I think a lot of people are in the same boat I am.
I am nervous about that pick because I don't think Anthony Smith can lay a whole bunch of points unless it's a knockout. And can Hua's experience totally crush this kid inside the octagon? This is a 5-round fight. He beat Rashad Evans. Not that it's... I think Hua's better than Rashad Evans. And
I
then
think he leaps and bounds better, actually.
And Thiago Santos... He lost to Thiago Santos, and Thiago's a solid guy. He's up there, and I would, if Thiago was fighting Hua, I'd probably go with Santos.
Easy, right?
Hector Lombard, anyone can KO Hector Lombard at this point. I don't know. And also, Hua, is he coming out of Brazil? Is this the same stuff we have to worry about? Does Hua submit guys, or is he just a knockout guy? Is he going to have to worry about any jiu-jitsu or anything? I don't know. I'm nervous about this. I think Hua can play this smart, and I don't think Anthony Smith has ever been in deep waters.
This is a 5-rounder.
I don't know what he's going to do with it. I think everyone that's jumping on the Smith bandwagon is a little crazy, and not that I'm not either, but he just hasn't done enough. This is a big step, but he has to go through Hua to get to the, cream of the crop at the top. That's a big ask. I don't know. It's weird. I've seen Hua's turned things around in such a time, and he looked good in the Corey Anderson fight, and I think Corey Anderson has killer power. Weird. Killer power. Didn't Corey Anderson fight at 185? Everybody up here, everyone we're talking about fought at 185.
Yeah, everybody's moved around a few times, or they
and
moved
that's
down
where I'm
to
wondering,
205.
is Corey Anderson a little less chinny at 205 because he's not so dehydrated? And can the same be said about Hua? I do think Anthony Smith is huge for this. I don't know, I'm more nervous about this. I'm just going to stick with another underdog. I got Hua decision.
Wow, huge underdog. Lesbo's looking to make a shit ton of money tonight, because if even 2 of your underdogs hit, you're going to be cruising. You're going to be Scrooge McDuck and diving into a pot of gold.
Who knows? I could change it, but I'm trying to, if I'm not really feeling the cards, these are just messy cards to me. When the cards look like this, where I'm looking at it and half the guys on the card, I'm like, I didn't even know they fought in the UFC, either anymore or ever before. And I think it's just a messy card, so.
Do we have 2 weeks in a row where it's like, hey, don't put tons of money on these? Because there was a lot of underdogs last weekend for a reason, because it looked like a sketched out night. This is sketchy for another reason. We are seeing those guys that are barely holding on to contracts, in my point of view.
I thought I had a lot of underdogs last week, and I did better than most of the people.
That is a good point. 8,700 for Anthony Smith against 7,500 for Hua. Minus 240 favorite Anthony Smith against
I like
plus
Anthony
200.
Smith, but I just haven't jumped on his bandwagon yet. The Rashad Evans beatdown isn't enough for me.
So do we have a Les dog for this week? I don't know if we agreed with too many.
I think it's Brennan Schaub.
Ah!
I think Brennan Schaub's the underdog pick of the week. It's not just about money. Sometimes it's about happiness. That's what Brennan said because he's like, I know you're worth $450 million. See, already that stuff's more interesting than this card. That's horrible. I can't wait to watch these guys fight. I'm glad it's a Sunday morning. It'll be nice with my coffee. Thanks for listening again.
Lesbo and The Bean.
Thanks for listening to LaTB. For all things Lesbo and The Bean, head over to lesboandthebean.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.